Hello everybody and welcome back to another CB Show Tunes tutorial. Now today what we're going to be covering is how to do this demo scene, as well as of course setting up a basically camera movement system based on the keyboard. So if you notice here, we're basically setting up I guess you could say like a cinematic scene right here, to where basically we have everything running around, and then of course you have your character doing whatever he's doing afterwards. So of course, during this, underneath this tutorial and all, I'm going to be putting in a couple of the scripts. The camera script for the movement and all, I'm not actually going to put that inside the description or the comments down below, mainly because it's just a very simple script. So let's go ahead and cover that script first, and then of course we'll get into how we made the cinema scene. So first things first, we're going to go back over to our camera control script. Now, if you did not or do not have this script, we did this inside, I believe, part 4 of this tutorial series. If you want to go back there and check out how we set this up, go ahead and do that. If not, go ahead and just copy the script from the comment section below on that tutorial, then come back over here and of course we can go and fix it up. Now the main difference that we have inside this script, unlike the other script, is these two variables right here. So what we had inside the previous script was what we called mouse X and mouse Y. Now this of course allows us to be able to move our camera using our mouse. So wherever our mouse was on the screen, it would move our camera according to that position. And to simply fix that issue, to change it to our keys, we're just going to put horizontal and vertical. Now, if you don't know why we're using horizontal and vertical, all you need to do is basically come over here to Unity, go over to Edit, and then go over to Project Settings, and underneath that, we're going to select Inputs. Now for this, if you notice, we have horizontal and vertical right there. And that's exactly what we're going to be using. So horizontal allows us to use multiple different keys for the same action. So take a look. Negative button is left, positive button is right, alt negative button is A, alt positive button is D, and so on. And of course we have the same setup for vertical, which is, super cool. So all we're doing is we're assigning these values over to this right here. So of course horizontal is going to go on our X position, and of course for our vertical position is Y pose. Okay, our vertical. Now since we covered that whole boring part, we're going to get into the actual animation for our cameras. So with our cameras, it's very simple. All I did was come over to the hierarchy, right click, and create an empty game object. From there, I simply renamed this game object camera control. It does not need to be spelled exactly like this. I just did that just because. Or not camera control, but camera cinema, because we already got a camera control up here. So once you have that set up, you're going to basically create 3 different cameras, which is what I have here. I called intro, hype, and end. You don't need to have the cameras depending on how many of these you want set up. And of course, I'll show you how to add script inside the code for depending on how many cameras you have. So starting off, we're going to create animations for each one of these. So with our intro camera, if you take a look at this camera preview right here, our intro camera starts at a -50 on the Z-axis and 3 on the Y. And then it goes to 1 frame, or basically 100 frames. And no, I believe that's 60 frames, yeah. 60 frames. And now the position on the Y is 2, and the position on the Z is a -5. So that's basically what we did with our intro camera. Now, if you don't know how to set up these animations for your camera, it's very, very simple. Simply select the game object that you want to animate, then select Create. Make sure that it is inside the selected folder that you want it to be in. So if you notice, I have mine in animation, and of course you give it a name. Now, of course, I don't really want to give that an animation, and also, Now, also keep in mind that it will automatically set up a animator controller for your camera. So say for instance, right here, we have our end animator controller, we have our hype, intro, and so on. All right, so in each one of these right here, you're going to basically do a different action. So if we go over to our scene again, select our hype camera, go over to our animator tab, and if you take a look at this, we have it move just like so. And of course we have our end, it does the same thing. Okay, so once you got that set up, and you have all your animations set up as well, you're going to go over to your animation or animator controller for each one of these. So we're going to select in real fast, and you're going to select the animation. So starting off, you're going to change the speed to a 0.5 or 0.25 or however fast you want your animation to end up. You're also going to select the motion by finding the motion. Just double click that, and you're going to make sure that loop time is off. Now the reason for this is because we don't want it to loop around. Now if you did want it to loop and all, then by all means do it. But I don't want it to loop because I want it to go through one and then go to the next, then go to the next, the next, the next. So I basically set loop time to equal false. Okay, so we're going to go to our hype. We're going to do the same thing, select the hype, change the speed, double click that, make sure loop time's off, and same thing with intro. Okay, perfect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over and create a script. So find your scripts folder. If you don't got a scripts folder, just go and make that. And you're going to right click, create C#, and we're going to call this Camera Cinema. Okay. So once you got this script opened up, make sure that it is spelt with an under, I guess you could say like a under dash or whatever that's called. And basically, what we're going to do with Camera Cinema is very, very simple, even though it looks like it's very complicated. Okay, so at the way top, what we're going to do is we're going to create a public game object, and for each one of these, we're going to call an intro cam. We're going to put a comma, hype cam, comma, in cam, comma, game cam, and of course, comma, player. Now, if you want, you could set up a, I guess you could call it like an array, and then of course call each one of these game objects by a number. But I personally find this a whole lot more informative to where you know exactly what's going on instead of having to be like, okay, so what was 1, what was 2, what was 3, It's just is a whole lot easier to keep track of things. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating float timers for each one of these, or at least for most of them. So cam 1 time is going to be for how long intro cam is going to last. Cam 2 time is going to be for how long hype cam is going to last. Cam 3 is going to be how long in cam lasts. And then of course the reason why we don't have one for game cam is because we want game cam to last forever, for as long as we want it to last. And of course player's not going to be needed because we're using it as a reference. Okay, so once you got this set up, we're going to go over to our void start. Now, with our void start, it's very simple. What we're going to be doing, we're going to make sure that our intro cam.gameObject.setActive is equal to true. What we're saying here is basically our intro cam is going to be active, or it's going to be enabled. But we're going to disable every other camera. So hype cam, in cam, and game cam are all going to be false. Okay. Next, we're going to go ahead and say player.gameObject. So we're going to grab our player. We're going to get the component, which is our player controller. If you have multiple ones of these right here, then you may need to adjust. I guess you can adjust the script for how many players you have inside the scene. This one you may need to actually use an array for. But for now, I'm working with one individual character. So yeah. And we're going to say .enabled is equal to false. Okay, so we're going to roll down now, and we're going to put void update, or inside our void update function, we're going to put if cam time is greater than 0, then cam 1 time minus equals 0.01f. So basically, if the time is greater than 0, it's going to start decreasing immediately, which is what we want. So we're going to say if the first timer is less than 0, then we're going to put our first time equal to 0. And of course, we're going to put cam2 time is less than or equal to 0. Then it's going to equal 0. Basically, we're going to be putting every single one of these timers to say if it's less than or equal to 0, then it's going to be equal to 0. And now comes the magic part. And this is, of course, where you're going to be setting up for each one of the cameras that you add. So make sure that if you have like 6 cameras, you're going to be setting up the floats as well. So here we go. If our first camera's timer is less than or equal to 0, then we're going to say HypeCam.GameObject.setActive is equal to true. And of course, we're going to take our intro cam and we're going to just equal to false or set it to false. And of course, we're going to start the next timer. So cam2 timer minus equals 0.01f. Basically, this will control our cameras and say, okay, we're going to deactivate the first, we're going to activate the second. And if you guessed correctly, we're going to do the same thing with the second one. So if cam2 time is less than or equal to 0, then we're going to activate the third camera, disable the second camera, and of course, start the third camera timer. And from there, as you guessed, we're going to enable the fourth camera, disable the second camera, third camera, and of course, we're going to set our player controller script to equal to true. So we're re-enabling our script. And of course, we're going to destroy this cinematic game object. That way we don't have to deal with it inside our scene. And that's pretty much it with that. Now I did mess around with our player controller for, how to put it, just playing around. I will post that script inside the thing or the comment section below, mainly because there are some updates to it in comparison to our previous tutorial. But I just wanted to let you guys know just because. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys this again before we actually start dropping our cameras inside there. So you can see I can't grab my character, but now I can. Perfect, and so on. Okay, so let's go and grab our camera cinema, and we're going to drag our intro cam inside there. So simply drag your intro, drag your hype, drag your in cam, and of course for your camera control, you're going to drag your camera control into there, and of course your player is going to be your original player. So you don't need to worry about all the other all the other players inside the scene, but if you want to go ahead and add those, you can as well. And of course, cam 1 time, 2, 3, 4. And actually, I just thought of a better way. If you set up a empty game object, and of course reset that, and of course just basically put players, then you could drag your player inside there and just disable all the player objects and then re-enable it later on. Just a thought that I just had. But yeah, all right, I hope you guys like this tutorial. If you have any questions regarding this tutorial or anything else regarding this tutorial series, please leave a comment inside the comment section below. If you have a ideal that you want me to add inside the next tutorial, which of course is going to be about creating buildings inside the game and of course spawning them on the map, then please leave it inside the comment section below as well. I'll be happy to try to at least add that inside the next tutorial if I can. So yeah, all right, I hope you guys liked this video. If you liked it, like, subscribe, check out some other videos, and I'll see you guys next time.